What's going on, Rattler fans, and welcome to our end of the year episode of Coleman's Corner. I'm Matt Comuzzie, joined as always by Executive Director of Athletics, Rob Coleman.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
Of course. So, like I said, end of the year, we're now looking at another great year at St. Mary's with a lot to look back on. So, to dive into it all, I kind of want to start by taking us to the end of the winter seasons with both basketball teams, right? So women's basketball gets off to a hot start. They ended up finishing the season 16-11 overall, 11-9 in the conference. They entered the Lone Star Championship as a 7 seed before falling in the opening round to West Texas. On the men's side, they finished the season 22-10 overall, 13-7 in conference. They entered the Lone Star tournament as a 5 seed, win their opening round game against Western New Mexico University. It ended up being their first Lone Star tournament win in program history. They fall in the semifinals at DBU, but still earn a bid to return to the NCAA South Central Regional for the second straight year. They upset Eastern New Mexico in an overtime thriller, ultimately fall in the semifinals. But, my question for you there is, from the outsider's perspective, it appears that, these two teams are consistently making progress year after year to get to where we want to be. But, how would you assess the current state of St. Mary's basketball and, how do they continue to build off of that?
Well, first off, I'd just say our winter and spring were really good, right? And men's and women's basketball helped start it. And so really thankful for their good work. I think they've taken a little bit different paths. Val, super happy, obviously, in the staff, 16-11 this year. We're finally getting to what we think we can be. We've taken our time trying to do it the right way. It's just taken a little bit of time, but I think we know what we can do. We were just on the outside of the regional, both the men and the women were in the Lone Star tournament for the first time in a few years. So really excited about the state of basketball, right? Recruiting's everything. So I think we retained the players, we wanted to. I think we might have lost one or two, but hopefully, recruiting's going really, really well there, and we can, start off kind of where we left off, right? And just get after it. They got a great trip. They're going to Hawaii this year. So excited that we haven't hit the ceiling. But at 16-11, can you see yourself, being 19-8 or something of that nature? I think that's the next step for us, and really just getting the women's basketball team into regionals too, right? That's ultimately the goal. For the guys, they've done it a little quicker, right? Bubba, last 2 years have been, outstanding, and they had another great run this year, quite honestly. The group that they brought in, those 4 or 5 transfers who just graduated, super excited in this era of NIL that we recruited some people and they stayed 2 years and they graduated. They liked it enough here to stay. And they have all these memories, man. They just went to the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row, 20-win seasons, back to back. The upset win against Eastern New Mexico, the first win in Lone Star, getting to the semis. So the state of basketball is in a really good spot. And as the Lone Star Conference is a basketball conference, right? And it is important that we're good in the sport of basketball. We don't have football here, right? And so, again, trending absolutely in the right direction. Bubba's looking at, hey, there is another step for us. How do we get in the Sweet 16? Val's looking at, hey, there's another step for us. How do we get into regionals? And so it's good to have that motivation of kind of what the next step is. And, developing our players who are coming back, making sure that, but also obviously the recruiting is ginormous, right? And so, we have expectations now with these two teams that we're in the tournament, that hopefully we're in that top 5 or 6 we're viable programs now, and we're trying to get into regional play. And that's exciting when they're both playing that way. So super happy with both of their competitiveness this year, and they really started out a great winter, but it bled into the spring for us.
As you said, looking into the spring now, I would like to start with tennis here. For both men's and women's team, kind of a weird season for them. They both ended up making the Lone Star Conference tournament, but falling in the opening round. For such a usually consistent postseason leader for us in the spring, what was kind of different this season, do you think? If that's even a fair question.
Look, 2 things, right? The women have been the program in tennis that has kind of led the charge over the guys. The guys had a good year this year. We came in 5th place. We're taking a step, right? There's some really good programs in the guy. We got a couple of men's programs that are super good. We got, I think, a host of those men's players coming back next year. And we hope to take that next step to finally get in the top 4, because since I've been here, we've never actually been in the top 4 in the men's area. The women's have not only been in the top 4, but they've won the conference, they've gone on the regional play, they've gotten into the final 16. That program this year had its fair share of injuries, unfortunately. I think if we stayed away from those injuries, we probably would have been a top 4 team, been in regionals, and who knows what would have happened. So getting some of those players back on the women's side going to be important. I think Bill feels really good about some of the recruits he's bringing in as well. And I think our roster will be, much deeper next year. But again, knock on wood, we stay away from injuries. The guys have talent, right? I mean, again, we're adding pieces to that. We just have not been able to knock the wall down, to get into regional play. But I think the culture's good on the guys' end. And the expectations, though, Matt, is that we're in regional play. I mean, that was the one piece that was missing in the spring was, whether it's both programs or at least one of tennis being in regional plays, the way golf, baseball, tennis, it would have been nice to have one of those programs in regional play. And that's the expectation, to get there. For the men to get there and the women to get back in there. And that's been the norm here for the last 10, 12 years in the sport of tennis.
So now looking at Stunt, so great season from them. They make the conference tournament, make it to the semifinals, and earn an at-large berth to the national championship. This is their 4th straight appearance at the Stunt National Championship. They get their first win there in program history before falling, or they beat Texas Women's there. With Stunt being a bit of a unique sport, the casual fans might have a hard time understanding and assessing, where this program is. Like, how good are we? Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, where would you say this program is with their development and their growth and, where they stand in the conference and all of it?
Yeah. I mean, first off, I think we're in a really good space in the world of stunt. I mean, it's a growing sport, as you know. It's now going to have its, not just the stunt championship, which is finished, but it's going to have a national championship because now the NCAA is going to sponsor the sport because it has enough programs in it to sponsor it, right? So we're really excited. When we decided to make a move to add stunt, this was the vision, that they'd have a national championship within the NCAA, and everything has worked out according to plan, so to speak. So excited about that. 4 years with the program, being in the national championship every single year, winning an event at nationals this year. I think we're trending in the right direction, right? We're a program that's inside, outside the cusp of being a top 10 team in the country, right? And again, we're a second place team, right? On average over the years in our conference. Haven't been able to figure out that DBU piece, but I do think we're growing. We've just graduated some really good players that have gone through our program, right? And so, that's the first group of young ladies, to graduate from our program. So a very young program, but we've been competitive from day one, and Coach has done a really nice job with that. And I think, again, we have not even come close to touching, the top of what we can be. And so development, I think, is going well. Recruitment will be, again, important. I don't know, all the numbers of recruits Coach is bringing in right now, but excited that we're in the mix here of being a top 10, top 12 team in the country. And now that it's going to be a national sport, I mean, that's a sport now, Matt, that will bring Learfield points to us if we go to a national championship, right? And that was, again, I think you'll see more and more schools in the country adding the sport once this gets going. But I'm excited where we're at. I mean, I never thought from the beginning we'd be in a national championship year one, and we've done that, right? And so, but there is the next step of, an upset here, that we really have, go to California, win a match, do certain things that, so we definitely have to set new goals for this upcoming year. And obviously one of them is to win the Lone Star Conference and get in this championship. I don't exactly know how many teams are going to get in with the NCAA piece, but excited about where we're at, what Coach has done with the team, and kind of where we're going.
Moving on here, and I want to split up men's and women's golf. We'll come back to women's golf, but for the men's golf team, one of our better programs this season in the regular season, Kongpop Kaikiao, gets named Lone Star Conference Golfer of the Year, make the Lone Star Tournament. We finished 5th there, which maybe a little bit underwhelming and a little bit of foreshadowing. They still earn a trip to the NCAA West South Central Regional and finished tied for 15th there. With a team with this high of postseason expectations that maybe fell short, in your opinion, what went wrong there? And to qualify that, is that even a fair thing to say they fell short? I mean, we're talking about a team that made it to the regional.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if they fell short or not, right? I just think we lost our way, unfortunately. And high expectations. The team had some great wins during the regular season. They were ranked inside the top 10. They were ranked, 1 or 2 in the region. I just think the expectations were kind of high. We didn't go as far as we thought. And it's just interesting, right? And in a period of the season where we needed to hit our stride, it was the absolute opposite of the worst time where we just played our worst golf at the worst time. During the year we go to tournament in South Carolina, Florida, wherever the case, and we're either winning or coming in the top 2 or 3. High expectations, but things just fell apart at the wrong time, unfortunately. So they had a great season. K-Pop had an incredible season as well. Just to get the Player of the Year in our conference, golf's super, super competitive. Yeah, I guess you could say, little disappointing. I'm sure it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth that we didn't go, get in the Final Four in our conference, didn't get in the Final 5. They didn't move forward, and I guess disappointing. But I wouldn't say what was the word you used? A disappointment or whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I don't think it was a disappointment. I just think, it just leaves a little bit of a taste. We could have done better, or probably should have done better. But that's the way sports is, man. Sometimes you peak at the right time. Other times things fall apart, and it did for us, unfortunately. But excited about what Coach has coming back, and talking about some of the recruits that he has coming in. Men should be right back in there, top 20 team in the country. Just excited about our golf program in general, kind of where we're at, where we're going, and really got a good plan for that. So to the guys again, I thank them for all their hard work. They did a great job for us. Super excited for them during the year, but it just didn't pan out at the end.
Yep. Continuing now with teams with historic high expectations, let's talk about softball for a little bit. Now firmly in the Taylor Lira era of St. Mary's softball. She finishes out her first year as head coach. They finished the season 31-24 overall, 22-16 in conference. Kind of up and down, but still enter the Lone Star Conference Championship as a 7 seed. They fall in the opening round to UT Tyler, but receive a bid to the NCAA South Central Regional as an 8 seed. And there, after dropping their first game, they get their redemption and a bounce back to knock out the 2-time defending champs, UT Tyler, in an elimination game. Yeah. They ultimately fall to the number 7 team in the country, Colorado Christian. Ariella Sines gets named NFCA Rawlings Gold Glove Award winner. Yeah. So, general question here, give me your thoughts on Coach Lira's first season as head coach and the team in general.
I mean, it's hard not to give her an A, we won 30 games in an ultra competitive conference, got in the Lone Star playoffs, got into regional play. There's really no negatives to say. The ladies played really, really hard to get that win against Tyler. As coaches building the culture, it's really cool we got to go to that this year, so the returning players get to see, this is what it's about, man, right? We shouldn't walk into any place and, not be feeling confident that we can go win. And that's what that gave us that last win against Tyler, right? Unexpected, but, great job. We were all in it. There was no quit in us, even though we had lost, one before that one. So again, Taylor's been a great fit to the campus. I love her, kind of killer instinct. She wants to win everything. She's going to be very successful. And I think our program is in a really good spot. And hopefully our alums and the parents feel really good about kind of where we're going to go, because I think this is really just the beginning of what we can do in softball. Get back to the days of where Donna was, winning 38, 39, 40 games a year. That's something we can do here for sure. And we got a really nice field, fully funded program. And, we need to add more pieces to it, but excited about the ladies who are coming back. And I hope they are, because I think this is just the beginning kind of where we can go. And a great job building the culture in year one, and it should just get better and better from here.
Yeah, absolutely. On the other side of it, I guess baseball now, it was a really fun season and a bit of a reemergence for them as a program, right? They finished the season 39-19 overall, 36-14 in conference. They entered the Lone Star Tournament as a 3 seed and get to host the first round series against West Texas. We go on to win that opening round series. Unfortunately, fall in Tyler in the semifinals, but still receive an at-large berth to the NCAA South Central Regional, first time since 2015. And similar to softball there, they get their redemption against Lubbock Christian, advance to days 2 and 3, where unfortunately they run into a bit of a buzzsaw on the number 1 team in the country, Colorado Mesa. But Gabe Cook, Edward Mendoza, both named all-region team. A great year for the team. How do they stay here? How do they continue to get better and improve on their success from this season?
Yeah, look, again, I think Frank's, kudos to the great work him and his staff did this year. Zach stepping in, being the interim pitching coach for us. I think for both sports, baseball and softball, it all starts on the mound, right? And what's great, for baseball is they've got a lot of good pitchers coming back. And we're adding a pitcher who was with us, a year prior, who got injured, and he's coming back, and he had a really, really good year. And that's not even counting if we bring in some recruits, right? So it starts there, right? We were, I would say securely the number 3 team in our conference this year. Tyler and Angelo are still, above us. That's a next step for us. But, they had an incredible season. Incredible, exciting season. It was fun. They've always had a pretty good culture in that locker room, quite honestly. But now, we have the talent to go with the culture. And I don't see a reason why, they can't stay where they're at. It's pitching. We also brought in some really good transfers. We had a great freshman. We brought in Beard at second base. So I'm excited. I'm excited about some of the recruits Frank's talked to us about as well. Some infield players. And so again, we hit the ball well. We hit a little funk with our offense, but the pitching was really, really consistent. And I think it begins and ends there, quite honestly. I think our hitting will be fine. Our defense continually needs to just get better. But the pitching is the key, and really excited about what we're bringing back and what we can add there. So I don't see a reason, like I said, that we can't just continue and hopefully maybe take that next step.
Closing us out here with spring sports, let's talk about women's golf. And what I think is the biggest surprise of the year, I think it's probably fair to say a lot of people saw this as a rebuilding year for them, losing a lot of key pieces last year. But a great regular season. They go into the conference tournament, end up winning the whole freaking thing, and now they're the 2026 Lone Star Conference champions. Obviously receive an automatic berth to the NCAA West Regional, where they finished 4th there, qualified for the NCAA National Championship. They head back there, finish tied for 3rd in stroke play, and then go on to finish 5th in medal match play. Taylor Wilczek finishes as the national runner-up, 1st in school history, and gets named first-team All-American. Was this great season as much of a surprise to you? And what can we expect this team to look like next year?
I mean, being honest, Matt, I don't think we had expectations with this program early on, just because we lost some really, really good players. Didn't know, some of the new players coming into the program, what was going to happen. And, it's interesting, right? There's obviously talent on the team, but they built a good culture, right? It all starts there, man. Like, they care about one another. They like one another, right? And they play for one another because of it. And then the talent rose as the season was going on. Freshmen started playing a little bit like sophomores, right? Taylor had an incredible season. And now, right? Now we're going to flip it, because they're all coming back, right? And now there's higher expectations, right? And how do we handle that? I mean, if you watch their matches, they never quit in any match. Like, they might have played a bad first day, but they kept grinding, and they would always, finish. If they didn't win an event, obviously, like, they'd finish in the top 2 or 3. They just were really, really good grinders, and they played hard for one another. And so we're going to flip it. They're going to come back with higher expectations. They'll be highly ranked with this returning team. We just added a really nice player, a recruit, this week, a Division I player who's transferring in. So excited, man. I mean, like I said, excited about, the softball, the baseball, the golf programs. Our spring has always really kind of drove us. Love to get tennis back in there. Love to get all 6 of those teams. Count Stunt in there, count the basketball programs. And we've really got to take this now and bring it into the fall, right? We had this great winter. We had this great spring. Like, how do we just catapult that into the fall with our soccer programs and volleyball and get off to a really, really good start? But I'm super thankful for the student athletes, our coaches, their hard work. We always would love to go a little bit further. I think golf maybe finished 5th or whatever the number was there, but overall, great season to get everyone into regional play, into their championship if you count that with Stunt, and it was a super exciting last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Phenomenal spring, lots of success, a lot of stuff to look forward to next year. You kind of touched on it. I want to kind of do a brief preview looking into the fall now. Just giving you the floor, what can we expect out of the men's soccer team, women's soccer team, and volleyball here?
Yeah, well, with volleyball with a new coach, I think they had a really strong spring with their sessions that they had together with some of the playing. Coach got an idea of kind of what she has to work with the players. We have some new players coming in, just signed another one just the other day. I think the ladies, who were with us with the spring enjoyed what was happening. Coach is pushing them to be the best they can be, and they are excited about that. So, yeah, I think we can be a good team, quite honestly. We have some leadership. These new players are fit into the culture, and off we go. So don't know where it's going to happen, but again, 2 years in a row, just on the outside of regional play, I think we can be there again. Hopefully we can, get in it this year. But I think we'll be competitive there, quite honestly. And Coach coming from a really competitive conference, competitive school, she knows what that looks like. And so excited, new assistant coach. So and I think the ladies again left, the ones who were with us in the spring, they left here feeling good about this upcoming season. Soccer again. Women I think have had a really good recruiting year. I think Coach is really excited about what he's brought in here, hoping they can have a really good season and get back into NCAA play. I think we're going to have a different type of offensive team. I think he's really excited about that. And then defensively, I know he's got some recruits that he brought in, new goalkeeper, that type of thing. So, can we be a top 4 team in the conference? I think so. I think so. You got to get off to a good start, though. I think men and women's soccer last year just got off to just like rough starts, and you try to catch up when you get in the conference. It's really hard. And then the guys, again, we lost a lot of really good players. Coaches, still recruiting currently. The players that he brought in, I know he's excited about. But the conference is tough, right? You got UT Dallas in there. They're good in men's and women's soccer. You got St. Ed's. You got obviously the national champion in Midwestern. We're gonna have to play really, really good soccer to get into the top 4. It used to be, not just a few years ago, it was kind of us and Midwestern, and then, St. Ed's brought soccer back, and then UT Dallas, joined. So it's going to be very, very competitive. But I would like to see if we could get 1 or 2 teams to really, like I said, catapult from the spring into the fall and keep this thing going, because we're on a real up, competitively speaking, kind of where we're at. So we'll see. Excited. Can't wait to get going. I know we're still a few months away from it, but chomping at the bit to keep this thing up and going.
Closing us out here, this is a question I get a lot actually from people outside of the world of college athletics. What does summers look like for an athletics department? Teams aren't playing anymore. We're in the off season. Yeah. That's kind of my question to you. What does the summer look like for this department? And then I want to give you the floor to touch on any kind of future plans or developments that you're able to speak about.
Well, there is no time off. I can tell you that much. You know that as well, right? We're planning for next year. Obviously, a lot of time goes into it. Getting our schedules together. We've got summer camps also going on right now, which is important. Some of them are recruiting type camps that we do, right? But a lot of planning, when it comes to just talking about, our fan experience, our fan engagement, making sure, if we have double or triple headers with multiple, sports going on, how we're handling that type of thing. There's just, an array of things going on, right? We've got a golf tournament that we've got to get focused on. We've got events that we got to get set up for. Next spring, we're hosting the men's golf South Central West Regional here at the Dominion. So it's not even just like getting ready for August when we kick off with our barbecue, but it's kind of planning out the whole year and trying to get ahead. So, no time off. We're back at it, and super excited. Again, like how the season went, how can we keep this going? Meeting with our coaches on a daily basis, handling our budget, that type of thing. And then as far as other projects, we've got some work going on at baseball and softball and the soccer fields right now, getting them ready to go. We have maybe a project going on in the arena. We're waiting on the green light on that one, but excited. Like if that one comes through, that will be a really nice enhancement with perhaps some new video boards and things of that nature. And then we're going to do some work at the tennis courts as well. So those are the types of projects that we're getting ready for. And again, they take time to organize. They're not inexpensive projects. And so, again, all of our Rattler Nation fans, our donors, the supporters of that, those type of proceeds, that we're able to fundraise go towards those projects.
Awesome. Well, that'll do it for this episode. Like I said, it's been another phenomenal year here in Rattlerland, and we'll see y'all next year right here on Coleman's Corner.